Hello guys, TAFHD here and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to take a look at this. This is my iPhone 4S and today we're going to take a look around it and see what's on this thing. The special thing about this phone is that unlike most 4Ss these days which are on iOS 9 and they're a complete mess, this one is still on iOS 5, in particular iOS 5.1. As you can see by looking at that lock screen, that is a very classic lock screen, of course, with slide to unlock. So today, let's just take a look at this thing. So first off, we'll just look at the exterior and then we'll take a look at the software. So you might be able to see on the screen there, that bubble. That is not a bubble from the screen protector that's on here, that is a bubble under the screen. That's because unfortunately this thing has had a screen replacement and it wasn't done particularly well, and somehow air or something has got trapped under the screen. It goes through phases of getting bigger and smaller. There was also another one further along which has disappeared, so I don't really know if this is going to eventually cause this screen to break or something like that, but it's been like this for about 7 years and so far nothing bad has happened. Of course, this has a normal home button, it does not have Touch ID, that came with the 5S, this is of course a 4S, and on the top we have a headphone jack as well as the lock button. Headphone jacks are not a thing you see anymore, and this lock button was kind of known for losing its click and being really hard to press. Unfortunately, this one is now like that, but not for the same reason that all the others are. Over time they just lose their click, but this one lost its click after I accidentally hit it into the side of a microwave. So that wasn't very clever, but that now takes a lot of force to click. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's just something you've got to get used to and know you've got to press it really hard. On the back, it's just an iPhone. Single camera, of course, with a flash. This is a flat camera, it doesn't protrude like on modern ones. And unlike modern iPhones, the Apple logo is still towards the top of the back. Now they're in the middle, which I'm not too keen on, to be honest, but they had to move it because of how massive the camera got. Of course, it says iPhone down there. I've not even mentioned that this one is white, but I don't think I need to mention that because I'm sure you can see that perfectly well. Bottom there is the charging port. Of course, this is not Lightning, it's not USB-C, it's the classic 30-pin connector. I was never a particularly big fan of it, it's quite a cumbersome cable, and of course you can only plug it in one way up, so I was quite happy when they switched to Lightning. Of course, Lightning is very outdated these days, it only uses USB 2, so of course lots of people want to move to USB-C for the iPhones. Whether Apple will do that or not, I don't know, but I definitely prefer Lightning to this connector. It's pretty cool, but at the same time it's just big and clunky. And of course there were lots of radios and stereos you could get at the time which had a 30-pin connector, so you could dock your iPhone on it to play music. I've got a couple of those, and of course once the newer iPhones came out with Lightning, all those stereos and things were sort of obsolete. You could buy an adapter, but it was kind of hit or miss as to whether that would work or not. And I think that is all there is to see on this thing, apart from the fact that it is in pretty good condition. Of course, as I've already said, it has had a new screen on it, but apart from that, this thing is in near pristine condition. There's some slight marks on the back, but they are hardly noticeable. On the sides, there are a couple of marks on the metal, but again, nothing to really write home about. This was always used in one case or another, so it never really spent any time unprotected like this. I'm guessing the only time it never had a case on was me filming this now and when I first got it out of the box when it was new. So this is a very nice example, and it's an even nicer example when you consider it's still running iOS 5. So let's get into this thing and let's take a look around it. Okay, so here we are on the home screen of the iPhone 4S. As you can tell, this is indeed iOS 5, and in particular, it is iOS 5.1, so not the original, but also not the newest. And I must just say, I really like the look of this. In my opinion, that whole interface looks so much better than the newer versions used in new iOS. This I'm not a fan of. This I think looks great. So let's just take a look around this. So of course, being such a tiny screen, you can only fit 4 rows of apps on there. So you do of course have to have lots of screens if you're not using folders. I have connected to the internet, so I guess we can see if any of the apps on here still work. So let's try and open Maps. And looking at this, it looks like the built-in maps do still work. This is when the built-in apps were still Google Maps. They hadn't switched to Apple Maps yet. I believe that was iOS 7. So it's pretty cool to see that this is still working. Let's change that to satellite. Will it still load? Yep, it looks like it will. Let's take a look if it can load any information. Yeah, maps on this thing still seem to work, and that is pretty cool in my opinion. And it does also still seem to be quite responsive. I'm sure if this particular device was running iOS 9, it would not be as smooth as it is, so that is kind of a good thing that this is still running an older version of iOS. Now I do have some games on here. These were all games that I got at the time. A lot of apps when I was still using this lost support for such old versions of iOS. They required iOS 9 or newer, and as time went on they required newer and newer versions of iOS. So all these games and apps that are on here were probably put on when they were still current for this version of iOS. A few stayed supported for quite some time, but others didn't. So for example, WhatsApp stopped working at some point. I don't remember exactly when, but that just stopped working after a while, which wasn't great, so I had to uninstall that. But some things do still work on here. Let's see if eBay still works. It should be signed into my eBay account, but let's see if it can do it. No, this version has expired, so no. eBay will not work anymore, and I can guarantee if I went into the App Store and tried to update, it wouldn't work. Let's try Amazon. I'm guessing the same thing will happen again. Yeah, that's not going to work either. But I believe some offline things, such as, let's say, this game Circle, this should still work. Yeah, there we are, and it's still managing to give adverts as well, which is kind of cool. But yeah, this thing still works just fine. I'm rubbish at it, but that does actually still work. And of course, this being on iOS 5, it's before Apple integrated a torch function into the phone, so you had to download a separate app. This is the one that I always used to use back in the day. Going over to the end screen, you can see I've got Minecraft Pocket Edition Lite on here. That is not a thing which you can get anymore. It was free, and it's a very stripped back version of Pocket Edition. I'm guessing it was just so you could get a taster of what Minecraft was like without paying for it, but unfortunately this isn't a thing you can get anymore. It is incredibly basic, but it's still pretty cool. So let's see if this will load up. I would expect it to, because I don't think it requires online connection. There we go. Here is Minecraft Pocket Edition Lite running on the iPhone 4S in iOS 5, and it does actually run pretty smoothly, which is nice to see. So what I would like to try is Google on here. There is a Google app on here. I'm guessing this is an extremely outdated version of Google. So let's just search for YouTube. Let's see if we can open YouTube. The built-in YouTube app definitely doesn't work anymore. That was cut off a long time ago, but it looks like YouTube through the web is actually going to try and load. We are connected to the internet, so theoretically it should work. Yeah, that's definitely taking a long time. I don't think it will actually load up. I don't know why Door is in my recent searches, but let's just click on that. Can Google at least load? Yep, Google can actually load search results. So let's go to the B&Q website. Will that work? No, doesn't look like it will. It looks like Google does still function on here, but websites probably won't. Try another website here. Will that work? No, it just expires. That's kind of unfortunate. And just to show you that the built-in YouTube app doesn't work, there we go. That's all it says. It's done that for years now. Cannot connect to YouTube, so that is no fun. So I'm not really sure what else there is to say on here apart from just looking at the interface as a whole. I believe this is a skeuomorphic design. If we open Compass, you can see it looks just like a real compass would. There is still a compass app built into iOS, but it doesn't look anything like that. A newsstand opens up as if it's a sort of bookshelf. That is just really cool design in my opinion. And of course the Notes app looks like an actual note. It still does, but not as much so. It really was all about realism on these things at the time, and that's just something we don't get today. Also, in voice memos, it looks like an actual microphone. So let's just take a quick look in the About section. As you can see, this is on iOS 5.1, and specifically this is on the Carrier for 3. I believe you could unlock it, but there's no real point. I don't think I'll ever put a SIM card in this thing again. I doubt it would really do much anyway. And one thing I must say is this home button's acting up a bit. I press it and it thinks I've double pressed it. Then sometimes I press it and it doesn't think I've done anything. So maybe that's going wrong, but I hope it's not. Let's, out of curiosity, see if the App Store will still work on here. I've actually not checked, so let's go over to Featured. Will it still connect? And it looks like it does. That's actually really cool to see, but let's just go and get one of these and it just won't work. Okay, so it wants me to sign into Apple ID. I'm not even going to bother because I know that it just won't work, and I don't think that's ever going to change. So there we are, that is my iPhone 4S, and that will now be it for this video. I hope this was somewhat interesting in some way. Might not have been, probably quite boring just looking at one of these old things, but this is one of my favourite phones, and it's cool to see that it's still running such an old version of iOS. I doubt there's really many left which are still on such an early version. Most, as I've already said, are on later versions and are just kind of a slow, laggy mess. I think most people agree that these things should have never got iOS 9 because it just wasn't a great experience. I'm very happy that I kept this on such an old version. It was kind of annoying at the time, but now I'm glad that I made that decision. So thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully it was interesting in some way, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.